Hi, it's me, Ganny's back, and I have a story to read to you about a tortoise and a hare, and that is about a tortoise is a turtle and a hare is a rabbit. It's in my book of bedtime stories, and it was published by Publications International Limited in Illinois. But this is a book that has a lot of different stories in it. A short story before bedtime, and so tonight, Ganny is here to read The Tortoise and the Hare. I hope you enjoy it. Once upon a time, in a great forest, there lived a hare and a tortoise. Tortoise was slow with everything he did. He sometimes ate his breakfast so slowly that it was almost time for lunch before he had finished. He kept his house clean and neat, but he did it at his own pace, very slowly. Hare, on the other hand, was quick as a wink in all that he did. He would be up in the morning, finished with his breakfast, and going for an early walk in the forest before the tortoise had even gotten out of bed. Boy, he does a lot of stuff early in the morning. Hare could not imagine how Tortoise could stand to be so slow all the time. You have someone slow, and then you have someone that's quick. Got to get it done. All right. Tortoise lived next door to his good friend Squirrel. Squirrel had a cozy little home high up in an old oak tree. She loved to spend her time scurrying around. She thought it was fun to jump from branch to branch. Squirrel, like Hare, wondered how Tortoise could always be so slow. There's the squirrel. She's cleaning up and making her house neat and nice. Hare lived near an old friend, Owl, who was not nearly as quick as Hare. In fact, he spent a lot of time sleeping. But Owl was very wise and a good neighbor. I'm trying to find Owl. I don't see him. He was very wise and a good neighbor. Sometimes he thought to himself, Hare always seems to be rushing somewhere in a hurry. I wonder if he ever slows down. I think Owl's way up here. Every afternoon, when the weather was nice, Tortoise would gather up his paints and brushes and go out into the woods. Tortoise loved to paint. He loved to paint pictures of the flowers and the trees and the stream near his house. He worked slowly. Man, but his pictures sure were beautiful. Hare thought painting a picture was not at all exciting. Ah, what a dull fellow Tortoise is, he said. Hare had the most fun leaping about the forest. He liked to visit friends, rushing from house to house. Wherever he went, he always ran very fast. There was just one, let me see, he was very fast. There was just one problem. Hare was sure that he was the smartest. He was the fastest, and he was the most handsome animal in the whole forest. And he never failed to tell his friends how splendid he was. I think I look especially fine today, he would say to himself as he stood in front of his mirror, always checking himself out. Tortoise never bragged about himself. There's Tortoise he's painting. Never bragged about himself. He knew that he was not particularly handsome and that he was very slow, but he did not mind. He was happy to spend his time working hard, painting his beautiful pictures at his very slow pace. I wonder if they're going to show one of his pictures. One day, Tortoise was sitting beside a stream and he was painting a picture of a very pretty wildflowers on the bank. He came up and said, You're such a slow poke, Tortoise. You've been working on that same picture all week. Well, I'm not so very slow, protested Tortoise. Silly fella, you're so slow that I could beat you at anything that you can name. Just name something and I'll win. All right, said Tortoise. How about a race? What an idea! Hare laughed and laughed and laughed at the thought of running a race with Tortoise. Hare laughed so hard that he thought he would explode. Now the turtle says, let's have a race. Word of the race spread quickly through the forest. All the animals were talking about how Tortoise had boldly challenged Hare. What was Tortoise thinking? Why did he do such a thing? They wondered. Even Squirrel had to laugh at the idea of Tortoise racing Hare. Squirrel hurried down her tree and went over to tell Owl, here's Owl, the exciting news. When Owl heard about the big race, he blinked his eyes slowly and said with his deep, wide voice, I am not so sure that Hare will win. You never can tell what is going to happen. So the Owl saying, you never know what's going to happen. Well, on the day of the big race, all the animals in the forest gathered at the starting line. Okay, so here's the starting line right here. Skunk and Chipmunk had been busy laying out the course for the race. Bear had a hammer to mark the finish line, a banner to mark the finish line. Squirrel had a bunch of balloons she was giving to the animals in the crowd. See the balloons? Squirrel had them to give to the people in the crowd. Fox was to be the judge. If the race is close, I will say who the winner is, he declared. Don't worry, said Hare. You won't have a problem. I'll be so far ahead, there'll be no doubt about who the winner will be of this race. Hare is just confident that he is going to win. Tortoise and Hare stepped up to the starting box. Tortoise looked nervous when he saw all the animals. Hare smiled, and he waved to the crowd. He could hardly wait to show Tortoise a thing or two about running a race. Fox looked at both runners and he shouted, Get ready, get set, go! The race was on. Hare dashed across the starting line on the blink of an eye. He disappeared over the hill first. Oh, dear, said Squirrel to herself. There goes Hare, out of sight already. Poor Tortoise, he hasn't even started. There's the turtle. Sure enough, Turtle was just beginning to climb the steep path. And how do you think he was going? Very slowly. Well, Hare ran and ran until he was sure he would win. Well, this isn't even a race, he said to himself. I think I'll lie down and rest a bit. Then I'll finish and still have plenty of time to spare. There's no way that slowpoke will ever catch up with me. So Hare, he lay down under a shady tree, and soon he fell fast asleep. Suddenly, Hare awoke with a start. He could hear cheering. He leaped to his feet and he began running as fast as his long legs would carry him. But when he saw the finish line of the race, he could not believe his eyes. Tortoise was about to win the race. Hare could not believe it. Tortoise was crossing the finish line. That must have been some good nap that the Hare took. The crowd cheered and cheered. They ran to the finish line to congratulate Tortoise. The wise Owl blinked his eyes and said what all the other animals were thinking. Slow and steady wins the race. Well, I hope you liked this little story. I don't know what one I'll read next, but, just remember how much Granny loves you and that I really am doing this just so you and your babies and all that stuff, my grandbabies, my great-grandbabies, just everybody's going to be able to watch these stories. I love you. You have a good night. And tune back in and watch another story. This is for my grandbabies especially. That's the sole purpose of why I started this. So if you enjoy, watch again. Good night. Bye, my babies.